Assembly Member Best, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, and Merry Christmas and congratulations on your successful event on Monday. I know using football for good is something that hopefully we can agree that we agree on. Moving on, you'll have seen in the news this week Liz Kendall's decision to not award the compensation agreement to the WASPI women, and you follow a long line of Labour leaders and high-profile politicians that have stood side by side and said you support the WASPI Women campaign. In fact, the image that I couldn't show you under the rules of this chamber would show that you met with them at a conference and said, keep up.
The assembly began with an air of politeness, but beneath the calm tone, tension was already building. Assembly Member Best opened the session with a courteous greeting to the mayor, wishing him a Merry Christmas and congratulating him on his recent event. Yet, after the formalities, his demeanor shifted. Best quickly transitioned from niceties to accountability, bringing up Liz Kendall's controversial decision not to compensate the WASPI women. He reminded the mayor that he had stood before cameras and told these women to keep fighting for justice. His voice sharpened as he asked if the mayor's New Year's resolution was to keep supporting them, or to now side with a government that had dismissed their cause. The room fell quiet, waiting for how the mayor would handle the pointed question. Sadiq Khan responded with calm deflection, his tone measured, his words carefully chosen. He said he still supported the women but blamed the lack of compensation on what he called a massive financial black hole inherited from the previous government. According to him, the government wanted to do the right thing but simply could not afford it. He framed it as a matter of economic inheritance, not moral failure. It was a political balancing act, sympathy without solution. His reasoning sounded more like a defense of the government than an expression of solidarity, and the tension in the chamber began to rise as eyes turned toward Best, who clearly was not satisfied. Assembly Member Best leaned forward, clearly unimpressed by what he had just heard. He challenged the mayor's claim about the so-called black hole, pointing out that even the Office for Budget Responsibility had found no evidence of this £22 billion gap. Best accused the mayor of repeating political talking points rather than standing with the women he once praised. The mayor's words, he suggested, sounded more like an excuse than leadership. Best pressed again, demanding to know whether Khan would personally take a stand for those women in the new year or retreat behind convenient government narratives. The exchange was no longer polite. It had become a test of integrity.
The good fight. Is it your New Year's resolution to continue to tell WASPI women to keep up the good fight, or do you agree with this government?
No, I think they should keep up the good fight. My understanding is that the government would like to do this, but because of the massive black hole left by the previous government and the awful inheritance, they simply can't find the money to do so. I mean, every year, Chair, every year, there's a gap of money coming in and money going out of £22 billion. And so the government's got a really tough task in relation to balancing the books. And we know because, unlike the previous government, this government have supported the campaign that their sympathies lie with the WASPI women, as indeed do mine.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, that's a little far from the truth, because what the Chancellor has come out and said is actually she's kind of gone on to say that people did have enough time to know this and that she doesn't actually support the cause. It's been less about the money and more about the full reason of doing it. But on the money in itself, I think I've told you previously, I won't go into it again, the state that this government inherited much being improved from what the last Conservative government inherited.
Khan tried to steer the conversation away from himself and toward broader national politics, listing past government failures as a distraction. He mentioned the post office scandal and victims of contaminated blood, using them as examples of how previous leaders had failed to deliver justice. But Best immediately cut through the noise, reminding him that this hearing was not about old governments or other scandals. It was about his own actions and his own promises. The chamber grew tense as Khan's attempt to deflect fell flat. Best's interruption carried a tone of control, as if to remind everyone that this was not going to become a political speech but a moment of accountability. Frustration began to surface in Khan's voice as he repeated his familiar defense. He praised the new government for finding funds for other victims while again blaming the past for the lack of progress on the WASPI issue. He spoke of the repeated £22 billion deficit like a shield, something to hide behind whenever the conversation turned uncomfortable. Best, however, was not about to let the moment slip away. Accusing the mayor of filibustering, he demanded a straight answer and not another speech. The chamber's energy shifted as the confrontation began to resemble a battle of patience, one man determined to extract honesty, the other determined to stay on message.
2010, but also to reflect on this 22 billion black hole that nobody's seen and nobody will be shown. And even the OBR said in their report that there is nothing in their review to legitimise the 22 billion. So, with that in mind, how will you be resolving in the new year to support WASPy women, if that is something that you still agree and you disagree with this government, as you say?
Well, I'm really happy to talk about national politics. Look, so the previous government claimed to care about those who were victims of the post office scandal. Where was the money to compensate them? No money set aside to compensate the victims of the post office scandal. The previous government claimed to care about those who were contaminated with
We're actually talking about you and what you resolve to do in the new year. Sorry, but the mayor was confused, so I was just redirecting him to the question. What will you be doing in the new year? Will you be supporting the WASPy women, or will you be supporting the government?
So just like with the WASPy women, the government set aside no money, the previous government, for the victims of the post office scandal and contaminated blood. What this government's done, and I fully support, is they found the money for those who are victims of the post office scandal, notwithstanding the difficult circumstances of their inheritance. They found the money to support those who are the victims of contaminated blood. They've also, by the way, are addressing the Windrush scandal, another legacy of the previous government. They've got to find this £22 billion in relation to...
Khan, maintaining his composure, insisted that it was possible to support the victims while also acknowledging financial constraints. But Best immediately seized on that contradiction. He argued that it was impossible to claim support for people while refusing to act for them. The tension was palpable now. Best accused Khan of lacking integrity, of twisting words to appear sympathetic while doing nothing. The exchange highlighted a deeper issue, the growing divide between political rhetoric and real action. To Best, this was not just about pensions, it was about honesty in leadership. To Khan, it was about defending the narrative that his administration was doing all it could within impossible financial limits. The debate then took a personal turn as Best listed a series of incidents that he said reflected a pattern of dishonesty from the mayor. He brought up the controversial expansion of ULEZ, reminding the chamber that Khan had promised not to expand it but did so months later. He mentioned the misdeclared Taylor Swift concert tickets and the delayed publication of the mayor's diary. Each example landed like a hammer, reinforcing Best's claim that Khan's words could not be trusted. The mayor's face remained composed, but the unease in the room grew as the accusations piled up. It was no longer just about WASPy women. It was about the mayor's credibility.
Black hole left by the government every year, by the way, not just 1 year, one-off, every year. They've got to fund the £22 billion. And I know, because the WASPy Women's campaign's been really loud and clear, that many women suffered as a consequence of this. I think she's referring to the Ombudsman's report, which was quoted by the Chancellor.
I think you've had enough time to do the filibuster thing, so shall we move on to the question? I'll repeat it. Will you resolve in the new year to stand by WASPy women as you said you would previously, or will you be agreeing with the government and saying that this is a lost cause?
I think it's possible to support the victims of the scandal in relation to the WASPy women, but also recognise the horrible inheritance this government's had from the previous lot. £22 billion black hole, public services on its knees, private sector on its knees, low growth, high interest rates, and a situation that no government would like to inherit, but this government has, and they're doing a good job.
Khan finally responded, attempting to turn the conversation into something lighter. With a half smile, he said it was always interesting to receive election advice, especially from a party that had lost 3 in a row. His tone was sarcastic, but the humor fell flat. Best didn't miss a beat, replying that he had won every election he had stood in and that perhaps the mayor could learn something from him. The chamber reacted instantly, some with laughter, others with silence. What had started as policy discussion had now become a duel of pride and political ego, each side determined to have the last word. Trying to regain control, Khan returned to his rehearsed talking points, laying out his resolutions for the coming year. He said his focus was on serving London, making it safer, greener, healthier and more prosperous. It sounded like a closing statement rather than an answer. Best listened silently, his expression unreadable. When Khan finished, Best spoke softly but sharply, saying that it was indeed possible to win elections without misleading people and that the mayor would do well to remember that. The chamber seemed to freeze for a second, a calm but devastating reminder that integrity mattered more than slogans.
The foundations of both public services and the economy.
Well, if you think what this government inherited was bad, imagine what the coalition government walked into in 2010. But when you say it's possible to support people by not supporting them, that just lacks entirely any integrity. And it's something that increasingly we're seeing with your mayoralty, whether it's telling people that you have no plans to expand ULEZ and doing it 10 months later, whether it's saying that you only found out you were going to Taylor Swift the night before and misdeclaring those concert tickets, you did that, whether it's not publicising your diary, which you said you would, but then you do it about a year later than you should, or whether it's this, standing, and in this post you've got 4,000 people liking this. This is an issue that affects 3 million people. It's buying votes, essentially, to stand by them and say, I support your cause, and then say, actually, no, I don't, once you're in the position to stand up for them.
It's always good to receive advice from people about how to win elections, particularly from
I've won every election I've stood in, so you can always listen to me if you like. Particularly
from a party that's lost 3 in a row in terms of the London mayoralty. I'm quite clear in relation to the resolutions I've got for the new year. I'll carry on serving this great city of ours to make it healthier, to make it safer, to make it greener, and to make it more prosperous.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it is possible to stand in elections. I have, and won without misleading people. I think that you should do the same. No matter your position, if you've told people you're going to do something for them, I think you should.
I'm really happy, Chair, to respond to that question.
That's okay. It's not a question, thanks. It's just some helpful advice for the Christmas period.
As the exchange came to its end, Khan tried to respond again, but the chair stepped in, ending the confrontation. The chair remarked lightly that it was not a question but simply helpful advice for the Christmas season. Laughter rippled through the room, but the underlying message remained serious. The mayor had faced a direct challenge and left many wondering if he had answered anything at all. Best's persistence had exposed a familiar pattern. Political evasion met with moral clarity. The hearing closed not with resolution but with the sense that the argument would continue long after the Christmas decorations came down.